So I just read an article this morning about Scooby Doo, one of the producers of the Mystery Incorporated series, revealing a completely unknown fact about one of the characters. Velma, apparently in this series, is a lesbian. And I just couldn't help but look at this article and just be like, no, because I'm not familiar with this series, right? Like, it came out, like, long after I was watching the show, but I was casually aware of it, right? Like, I was around people who watched it. I watched a couple of episodes. It's not bad. I like the show. I was actually planning on going back and watching it again. This was the one Scooby-Doo show I wanted to go back and watch. But the thing I wanted to get at, the thing I really wanted to point out when it came to this specific statement about this specific character is that I explicitly remember that Velma spent a significant chunk of the early series lusting after Shaggy's dick, only to lose out to fucking Scooby Doo, of all people. Shaggy would rather hang out with his dog than be with this chick. She's that annoying, and I don't, I don't know. Like, it's kind of funny in a weird, morbid way, but it is kind of ridiculous. The creators of these shows, or at least these agenda pushers, these kind of propagandists, gay rights activists, like, they really do go against, like, established continuity in order to push a narrative. This is something I've noticed with, like, J.K. Rowling, but this example is arguably worse, because in 50 years, Velma has always been portrayed with an interest in men. She's had, like, several love interests, a male love interest. She's been shipped with Shaggy incessantly. They've always done this. Like, even in the original series, they would, like, be dancing together for fun. Like, there was never any real indication that they were, like, that they were dating, sure, but there was also never any real indications that, like, Velma, she's totally gay. Like, honestly, as an adult, like, it really does feel like the only people who push that narrative are complete thirsty fucks like Nostalgia Critic who fetishize the lifestyle. It really does feel that way. By the way, it does feel like the biggest supporters are the lesbian community are straight men. It's bizarre. Like, whenever I talk about this kind of stuff on message boards, it's always like straight men who are like talking shit about like the things I have to say and like the things I've noticed and things like that. It's they're very, very defensive of lesbians. They really, really want their Pornhub to be real. Apparently, it's just it's ridiculous. I think it's a beta male thing actually, where they can't be with a woman themselves. They sort of like fetishize this life. They don't want like other men to be with them either, so they just sort of create this fantasy like, oh yeah, we lesbians, two holes are better than one. That's their mindset, and I think that's why so many people enable this, like this whole Velma thing for years now, when it really had no bearing. It had like no canonical basis at all, and now we have this weird situation where a producer is making weird statements about a decade-old show that as a casual viewer, know is complete bullshit. It's really, really insane. Really, really out there. We really, really need. I don't know. Like, not to not take this seriously. I don't know. Like, I personally don't really hold this viewpoint at all. In fact, I kind of disrespect anyone who even does, and if they do change it, it's clearly to please this vocal minority of people on the internet. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't an organic, natural thing. You know what I mean? Like, it was people, like with the Harry Potter thing, like people complaining about there not being enough gays, and the creators like desperately trying to pretend, oh, there have been gays there all along. Like, it's not true. Gayness is not as prevalent as you're led to believe. It really, really isn't. Even in the gay community, it's kind of bizarre how many of the women involved in the LGBT community are actually completely straight with no interest in women at all. Like, it's bizarre. It's bizarre. Like, yeah, the biggest lesbians in the LGBT community are like transgender women, biological men dating biological men. It's or going after lesbians. It's really weird if you're familiar with it at all. If you've grown up in like a super liberal community, as I have, and have observed it and learned to, I guess you could say and learn to detest it. I guess you could say I learned to hate it. You could say it's ridiculous. I don't respect it at all. We really got to. I would suggest parents, people who are viewing cartoons like this, like be very, very cautious. Like be very, very involved with your children. Like talking about like why this is a wrong lifestyle, why people are pushing it. I don't know, man. I do think you need to like talk about why it's wrong. And like talk about like the common talking points as to like how they try to justify it, because it's not really about love. They always do this, like, oh, they're doing what they want to do, they want to live their lives freely. Not really. Like the appeal is like being a degenerate and being like doing all this crazy shit that society would otherwise kind of frown upon, right? This unsustainable shit that wouldn't operate, that wouldn't build up a functional society. That's it. You know what I mean? Like we still haven't seen the repercussions of gayness just yet. It's gonna be like another 50 years, I would say, if not sooner. You have a lot of dysfunctional people out there, a lot of dysfunctional relationships, and a lot of it is because of how gayness is portrayed in media, like what people expect from their relationships, and things like that, pushing themselves in a completely wrong direction. Like I know so many people who have been emboldened by this kind of media presence to sort of like basically ruin their lives to pursue something that isn't even real. You know what I mean? like not really building up to eventually having a family or a career, just having gayness be their defining characteristic. And that's the thing that upsets me about this. Like these people, the Velma is a lesbian crowd. Like these people are defining Velma as a character purely by this idea that she might be a lesbian. Like even though she's clearly not. Like she's not like smart, she's not engaging, she's not a good friend to the gang. Like she's not close to these people. Like she's not a good person. She's not someone to look up to. No, she's just a lesbian. Like that's their entire category for her. Like, oh, she's clearly a lesbian. Like, I honestly, like, I think that's completely disrespectful to all the things she's accomplished in her career. Like, this is like a 50-year-old cartoon character, right? 1969, right? Debut, the brains of the group, solved countless mysteries, one of the series' mainstays. I believe she's been there more than Fred or Daphne. Actually, Fred and Daphne have not been around nearly as much as you would think. It's mostly been like Shaggy and Scooby in like the 70s and throughout the 80s and 90s, I think, before like the group really reestablished itself with the traditional method. Probably because like back in the day, Fred and Daphne were kind of boring. Well, Fred especially. It's really, really interesting. The character, I think, is very, very beloved and popular for who she is, not for this narrative attached to her. You know what I mean? And in a way, I feel like this lesbian angle is really doing her a disservice. I think it's very, very disrespectful to her. It's like, wow, really? This is the thing that makes you like Velma, because just really, 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 it's ridiculous. It really is. It truly is ridiculous. Not a fan of this idea at all.